UAP are airborne objects that, when encountered, cannot be immediately identified. With regard to the importance of transparency, the Department is fully committed to the principle of openness and accountability to the American people.
We're going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west. Oh my gosh, dude.
U.S. Navy personnel recorded what appears to be triangles, some flashing. The video was taken through night vision goggles with a single lens reflex camera.
Well, I mean, it's a pretty high-profile incident. I don't claim to be an expert. You're the guys investigating it. I mean, who else is doing it?
There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining UFO We Want to Know. As always, I'm going to say this in the beginning of all my shows. This is dedicated to those who have been ridiculed, dragged through the mud, and made fun of by the media. And that's so important for me to say. Now, before I begin my show, I would like to talk real quickly about the administrator for NASA. His name is Bill Nelson. And just last week, he came out with NASA in their first UFO statements of so-called truth. And they declared that they were going to be open-minded, show transparency and honesty to the American people. Okay? Now, there are some issues with those statements, and that's because they named a chief of UFO research panel. When one of the audience members asked Mr. Nelson, "Can you give us a name?" he refused. Transparency? I don't think so. This particular gentleman, whoever, I assume it's a gentleman from what they were talking about, said that so far there was no evidence of any alien evidence, which again, problematic. So now they're using the word UAP, and I don't use that word, but they use it. I look at it as unnecessary appeasement, prevention. That's what UAP stands for to me, because they're not showing anything that's transparent to the American people. Now, along with Bill Nelson, he had two other people, and I'll talk about them at the end of the show. And this is what I don't understand about them. I do all my videotaping, all my photographing with a phone camera. A phone camera, okay? So they're saying there's no UFOs that they've detected. So let's start with what I have taken in Pahrump, Nevada, just this past week. We can begin the show. And here's the first video. Now these videos, ladies and gentlemen, we have an arrow pointing at the UFO, and you can follow it yourself. And we're going to loop this a few times so you can see it. You might have to get a little bit close to your television to see it, but these UFOs are flying in and around the sun. Now when I take these videos, I take them either in super slow motion, which the first one is. The next two will be in slow motion, but take a look at these. These are craft. These are intelligent, controlled craft by intelligent beings. No mistake. Look at that. That is a UFO. Now they fly into the sun. You see that aurora around it? We catch them in that aurora, okay? Because the darker side, it doesn't illuminate the UFO. But once it gets into that glossy aurora of the sun, that's when you see them go through the sun or in and around the sun. Next video. There's your arrow, tells you where it starts. And you can follow that. It's going to come on the other side of the sun. We're going to loop that a few times. If these are not UFOs, what are they? We're going to loop it again. This particular video here was taken in slow motion, not super slow motion, so it's a longer video. It's 44 seconds long. And we shortened it a little bit, but at 23 seconds it starts its movement. This is proof positive that these are UFOs and they're in our atmosphere. These UFOs are not in the sun's area. It is in our atmosphere, because as we go through these, you'll be able to see the craft actually zoom towards Earth. It's just extraordinary. I call this video UFOs in the Sun. Like during World War II, our dive bombers would fly out of the sun, that's what they would call it, onto ships, so the ships couldn't see them. Obviously, human beings cannot see into the sun, and that was the whole tactic behind that. On the next video is a 39-second video, and this one is pretty interesting. If you take a look at this, you're going to see, if you look close enough, you're going to be able to see actually two UFOs flying in unison. They're in the bottom of the sun, flying towards and then to the left. You'll see them. I can see them from here, and I'm blind. But those are actually two UFOs flying side by side. Now, if NASA wants, if we can loop that one more time, if NASA wants, they can see these videos for themselves. And all that money the taxpayers spent on NASA, they can go ahead and they can analyze it all they want. These aren't things that I put into my phone. What you see here is raw footage. Isn't that so interesting to look at? And if anybody tells me, well, they could be flies or it could be a moth or whatever, this is in slow motion. If I put it, we're going to show you one a little later on, that at the end of the 17 seconds, you're going to actually see the craft moving at its regular speed. I hope that scientists take a look at these videos for themselves. I have literally probably 100 of these, but I made a point. I made a point on these 8 videos that we're showing tonight. They're all within 4 hours time, starting at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. I went out at 12 o'clock. I started videotaping the sun. Now, in the beginning, without filter system, it would be too bright for you to see on television. So I put a filter on it to darken it up a little bit. Next video. This one here is 1 second out of the sun. You can see this one very clear. The arrow is for your viewing. And essentially, again, you got a UFO going in and out of the sun. And they stay close to the sun until they're, apparently they come into the sun so human beings don't look up and say, hey, look at that, where's it going? When they come in, I'm not sure if they circle around until they're ready to go to wherever they're dispatched to or whatever it may be. But as I said, when it gets to the dark blue on the outside of that aurora, you can't see them anymore. They disappear. And so I think what's happening is the sun is illuminating these craft. And if they illuminate them, it gives you a better idea of them being around. When you tape your own, and I hope you do what I do, go out and tape the sun. On a tripod is best, because any movement by you can distort. But you'll notice that these particular ones that I'm videotaping, They're very sharp. Next video. This one is below the sun, of course. And you really have to look close at some of these, but they're there. The arrow again, and then you can follow it. You see it taken off to your right, upper right. It goes upper right. And it's just incredible. Last loop here, follow it, just keep an eye. Now this one here must have been closer to Earth and larger. As you can see, it's taken off. That's slow motion, ladies and gentlemen. Excuse me, that's super slow motion. Super slow motion. And if you've ever seen something done in super slow motion, you hardly move. I've got aircraft that I've taken in slow motion and super slow motion. And I can tell you, it's incredible to watch because it looks like the jet is just standing there in space, not moving. We're going to be back with several more videos after this message. We are back. Ladies and gentlemen, this next video I have is probably the most interesting one of this group. We're going to loop this 5 times because you got to see it to believe it. And I hope Mr. Nelson from NASA is watching this. Can we play the video? You're going to see this UFO. This is super slow motion. It's on the top. You saw the arrow. Now you're going to watch this UFO. He seemed to be coming down. He is in the dark because he was a very large one. Now watch what happens to this UFO. He didn't disappear. He shot up. He did a complete loop. Now when I put this on super slow motion, before I edited it, I could see it actually loop up and it went straight up as if something was coming up from the Earth. I'm not sure if something was shooting at it or it just made the loop for whatever reason. What do you think? For those of you who are interested, write in UFO we want to know @gmail.com. Let us know what you think it is. It's an incredible, incredible video. And if NASA and all their wonderful PhDs there think that this is just a glitch, well, at the end of the show, I'm going to show you exactly what you're seeing because I took a stop image of this particular object here, and I'll show it to you at the end of the show, or I should say the end of the videotape show. Again, we'd like to hear what you think. UFO we want to know @gmail.com. It's really important for me to hear from you, the people who watch these videos and think that there's something to it. These are UFOs. Next video. "13 seconds, it's on top of the sun." We'll be able to show you that with the arrow. And we're going to loop this one 3 times. Now, one thing I want people to remember while they're watching this, if you go out and videotape yourself, make sure you don't have your camera pointing at the sun more than 10 seconds because you can damage the sensors in your phone. I understand that they can actually leave a spot on your camera. So you got to be very careful. I've never had that happen to me, but I understand it can happen. The sun is extremely powerful, and that's why when you see photographers taking pictures or astronomers, they have filters on whatever they're using. So again, I want to stress this. If you are going to take videos or photos of the sun, please don't have it facing the sun for more than 10 seconds. I wouldn't want you to have to write in and say, you messed my phone up, because I'm giving you a little warning here. I think it's so important. The next video, and this will be our last. As you can see the arrow, and let's follow it. Goes left of the sun. And we'll loop this one 3 times. So if you didn't get it the first time, every time we loop it, we have the arrow there for you to see, and then you can follow it from there. Now, some people tell me what they do is they put their television on a darker setting for if they are light sensitive. You can do that with this video also. And let me know how interesting these videos are for you. Because in the future, if you think these videos are interesting, upcoming videos are going to knock you to the ground, because they're incredible objects that I caught coming out of some clouds in Costa Rica. And I want to share those with you in an upcoming video. You'll be real surprised. I tried counting them, and I never could get around to it. It's just impossible. That ends our video session, and I want to show you, I have 4 photos. The first one is one that's pretty close to what you've been seeing. And we can see that one. There's like just a little white speck in the atmosphere, but that's what you were looking at. Very, very simple. It's a white streak, if you will. A tic-tac. You want to call it a tic-tac? Maybe that's what it was. Next photo. A little bigger image, a little darker background. Starting to keep its form still. It is keeping its form still, but it's starting to come into view. And the next one I'm going to show you is I went into my filter system. And I blew it up quite a bit. This, ladies and gentlemen, if you look at just the white part of it, the center part, the rest of it is actually haze. And this is what our scientists say, the center part is the heat signature, and the outside part is giving off cold air. And our scientists still don't understand how that works. The last photo is a complete blow-up of it. And it gives you a pretty good idea of what you were looking at in these 8 videos that we showed. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a object that was traveling in our atmosphere. Now, I have 200 megapixels on my phone. It's the Ultra 23. And it's a great, great phone and camera combination. But if you look at this, again, scientists say the center part is the heat signature. The outside part is cold air. And we still haven't heard. Now, they were saying this, I believe it was like 8-9 months ago, they were saying this when we had the problem with the 3 objects that our Air Force shot down using $400,000 heat-seeking Sidewinder missiles. That still gets my goat, because that was taxpayers' money, and we can never get that back, can we? And they haven't recovered the 4th one, which is in Lake Huron, and they still haven't told us if they recovered that. I'm sure we're not going to hear anything about that. Now, I want to get to some really important points about the people from NASA. They come out and they've said all these things about how transparency they're going to show honesty, and they want to rewrite the book, so to speak. But I tell you, when they tell you something and then they come back and make an announcement and say, we still haven't found anything, why make the announcement? What's the point of making an announcement of nothing? Okay? Of nothing. NASA, never a straight answer, as I said last week. That was a good one, and I'm going to stick to that. I love whoever coined that. I would like to shake their hand. NASA is not just one person in charge of the whole sack of potatoes there. They have people who have titles that I can't figure out. They have a gentleman by the name of Daniel Evans, and he's got one heck of a title. He's the Assistant Director, Associate Administrator for Research at NASA's Science Mission Directorate. Okay, what does that even mean? Is it just something, a long title so they can give more money? Okay, what they have to do, in my opinion, what they have to do in utilizing taxpayers' dollars, if they want to go to Congress and say, we need $27 billion, there should be a slideshow behind them. Like I have mine behind me, where you can see my graphics. They can do the same thing. I do a show on a shoestring budget. Ladies and gentlemen, I pay for the show myself. I don't have any sponsors as yet, and I do need sponsors because I'm told that I should have an hour show instead of a half-hour show. I could be showing videos and photos all day long. I have 20,000 UFOs and videos and photos in my databases. And I've got several backup databases, and they're not all in one place. You have to be very, very careful. I've heard of people with terrible stories about the government coming in, taking their property, and they never get it back. What is that all about? I've never broken the law, and whatever I say is things that you see in the media all the time. It's nothing new. And I'm sure there are a lot of people like me that have spoken out about NASA and SETI, and of course the government being so-called showing transparency and honesty. They're not. Stop using the acronyms to change the narrative. It's UFOs. These are unidentified flying objects, and they are being flown by these incredible beings. In upcoming shows, I'm going to show you several, I guess you would call them probes that I found. These are objects that are too small, unless the aliens are 6 inches tall. These are very small craft. They fly around, they loop, they do all kinds of maneuvers. I asked a gentleman that used to be in the Air Force, we're talking the 50s and 60s, and he came out to me and was asking me about my UFO experience and this and that. And I asked him the same question about what I show on TV. And then I showed him a particular UFO that was looping. And he said, there's no way in the world our craft can do that. It'd fall apart in the sky. So true, because I've heard that before from a lot of shows that I've watched on UFOs, that our craft can only do so many G's before it starts to come apart, much less the pilot inside of it being smashed in the cockpit. So until the government, NASA, SETI, all these groups, and remember something, it's not just our country. We're talking about our allies, even our adversaries. If you don't think Russia, China, even North Korea have tried to shoot these craft down and have been successful in shooting them down, you would be right if you said they are, because they are. If you think that we're the only country that has brought down these craft, you're wrong. To date, I understand there's over 100 down craft that have come down on Earth, and I don't know if we've got them all. I'm sure that other countries have. But the point here is we need transparency, and we need for you, the taxpayers, the people who watch videos like this, contact your representative, contact your congressperson, your senators, your governors. Tell them. If you don't believe you, talking on the phone to these senators and representatives, tell them to watch UFO, we want to know @gmail.com. Tell them to watch the show and see what kind of conclusion they come to. It's ridiculous for me to come on the air every week and complain about NASA and the millions of dollars, billions of dollars actually, that they're spending wastefully. I'll see you next week, and I want to thank you for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed the show.